I refused to include my husband's mother in our joint will. That night, I woke up to her standing over me with a folder. "You will sign this," she said, "or you'll regret waking up." My husband pretended to sleep. I signed nothing. The next day, I found out someone had already filed a copy with the notary, and the signature was an exact match too. Hi. My name is Rachel. I'm 42 years old, and I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. I work as a nurse at a local medical center, mostly nights. I've always been the kind of person who keeps to herself, follows the rules, doesn't ask for much. I thought if I did the right thing, I'd get the same in return. But I was wrong. So wrong. My husband Brad and I have been married for 9 years. We don't have kids. It's just been the two of us and our dog, Daisy. We bought a house together 5 years ago. Paid off the mortgage last winter. I thought it was a new chapter for us. I thought we were finally building something solid. Then his mother got involved. Her name is Marla. She's 66, lives about 30 minutes away in Loveland. She's been a widow for over 20 years, raised Brad on her own. That's all I ever heard about from him. She did everything for me. She's the strongest woman I know. I owe her everything. It was sweet at first. Until it wasn't. I never really clicked with Marla. From day one, she treated me like I was a mistake Brad made. I wasn't from a rich family. I didn't come from their little circle of country club friends and casserole swaps. I was just me. But I made it work. I kept things polite. That was my first mistake, trying to be nice. 3 months ago, Brad and I decided it was time to put together a formal will. We'd never done it before. We were both in good health, but with everything going on in the world, we wanted to be prepared. If anything happened to either of us, the other would get the house, savings, insurance, everything. If we both passed, it would go to my niece and his godson. That's it. No mention of Marla. We didn't think that would be a big deal. She had her own place, her own income, and no real expenses. She wasn't struggling. We weren't cutting her off from anything. That's when things started to shift. I don't know how she found out about the will, we hadn't told her. Maybe Brad slipped. Maybe she snooped. Either way, she called me 2 days after our lawyer appointment. "Hi Rachel," she said. Her tone was fake sweet. The kind that makes your skin crawl. "I heard you and Brad are making decisions about the estate." I hesitated. "We're just getting some things organized. Normal stuff." "I assume I'm included?" I paused. "It's just between me and Brad." Silence. Then she said, "I'm his mother. I raised him alone. You think I don't deserve something?" That was the beginning. Over the next week, she called my husband constantly. Asked to come over for dinner, then cornered him in the garage. I know, because I watched from the kitchen window. She'd talk low and sharp, hands moving like she was laying down rules. When I'd come out, she'd switch tones instantly, smiling, laughing. I told Brad it made me uncomfortable. He brushed it off. "She's just protective." "No. She's obsessive." He got defensive. "She gave up everything for me." Then Carla, our estate lawyer, called. She told me someone claiming to be Brad's family trust manager had called and tried to request our draft will. She said it was an older woman, very pushy, who refused to give her name at first. I knew who it was. I confronted Brad. Again, he played dumb. Said he'd talk to her. But things escalated fast. One night, I came home from a late shift and found Marla in our kitchen. Just sitting at the table with a cup of tea. Like she lived there. "How did you get in?" I asked. She smiled. "Brad gave me a key. You really ought to keep some snacks in this house." Brad came out of the bedroom like it was nothing. "She was just waiting for you to get home." I lost it. Why would she be here? At midnight? He said she needed to talk to me. That we all needed to come together as a family and plan for the future. Her future, he added. I said no. Flat out. She stared at me like I'd kicked her dog. Then came the night that still keeps me up. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke up with this awful feeling. Not a noise, just pressure. My eyes opened and there she was, Marla, standing over me. She had a manila folder in one hand and a pen in the other. You're going to sign this, she whispered, or you'll regret waking up. My whole body froze. I looked to my left. Brad was next to me, eyes closed, breathing steady. I whispered, Brad? Nothing. Brad? Still nothing. Marla moved closer. He knows I'm here. He's letting me handle this. She pulled out the paper from the folder. It was a will. A different one. It listed everything in our name, and it gave it all to her. Everything. The house. The money. Even Daisy. You want to make sure someone's taken care of, right? She said, smiling. I'm not signing that. She didn't move. Her free hand slid into her coat. I swear to God I saw something shiny. A blade? A tool? I don't know. I jumped out of bed so fast I nearly tripped over the nightstand. I screamed at Brad. Wake up. She's insane. He sat up slowly. Rachel, calm down. She broke into our home. She has a key. She threatened me. She's just trying to protect her future. I called the police. She left before they got there. Brad didn't even try to stop her. He just stared at the floor. The cops took a statement, but since she didn't attack me, they couldn't do much. They said it was a civil matter. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I drove straight to Carla's office. She looked shaken. Rachel, I was about to call you. I received a signed version of the will. Filed with a notary in Boulder yesterday. It has both your signatures. I stared at her. I didn't sign anything. It matched your signature exactly. Same as the old checks and documents you've signed with us before. It's been logged with the county. I got a copy. It was the same document Marla had shoved in my face. I showed it to Brad that night. He didn't even pretend to be surprised. She just wants to feel secure, he said. You helped her forge my name. She had an old card you wrote. She traced it. You stood there while she threatened me. While she forged my life away. He didn't apologize. He didn't look guilty. He looked relieved. I left that night. Took Daisy and my work bag and stayed with a friend from the hospital. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've hired a lawyer. Started the process to contest the fraudulent will. But the damage goes deeper. Brad and Marla opened a joint account 6 months ago. He had been funneling our savings into it. She had full access. They listed our house as transfer on death to her. He did it behind my back. It wasn't just a forged document. It was a plan. A long one. One they started months ago. They were going to wait until something happened to me, an accident, an illness, something, and then everything would quietly shift into her hands. But I didn't disappear. Now I'm fighting back. And this time I'm not playing nice. After I moved out, I started to see things more clearly. Being away from Brad made it easier to admit the truth. I didn't really know the man I married. At first, I blamed Marla for everything. But the more I dug into the paperwork, the more I realized Brad wasn't just going along with her. He was helping her. Quietly, slowly, and with full intent. That broke something in me. I met with my lawyer, Teresa, twice a week. She was blunt and serious, the kind of woman who didn't sugarcoat anything. They've set this up well, she told me. but not perfect. The forged signature is a felony. If we can prove it, and we will, we can not only reverse the will but press charges. I told her to go after everything. I want them exposed. I want everyone to know what they did. She nodded. We'll need more than your word. We need evidence they planned this together. So I started gathering. I still had access to our shared cloud storage. Brad probably forgot. He'd saved documents in a folder labeled insurance. I went through every file. That's when I found it. A scanned receipt from 6 months ago. A local printer shop in Boulder. Custom legal-sized forms. 2 copies of a last will and testament template, with both our names. My name had been spelled wrong at the top, but corrected by hand. The note said, "Fix signature line before notary appointment." I sent it straight to Teresa. Next, I checked our Amazon account. Brad had ordered a book called How to Manage Elder Estate Transfers Without Probate. The order date? 2 weeks before the forged will was submitted. It was all there, breadcrumbs leading straight to them. Then something strange happened. Brad emailed me. The subject line was, "Let's be civil." He wrote, "Rachel, I know things have gotten messy. Mom just wants to feel like she's not being pushed aside. I think we all said things we didn't mean. Maybe we can talk this out like adults." I didn't respond. A week later, I got served. He was filing for divorce. Not separation, full divorce. He was claiming I abandoned the marital home and left him with financial strain. He asked the court for full control of the property and assets to maintain stability. Teresa looked at me and said, "He's trying to corner you. He thinks if he files first, he can push a settlement before the fraud is exposed." That was when I made a choice. I told Teresa, I want to play their game. But smarter. We held off filing a response. Legally, we had time. Instead, we focused on building pressure. I filed a police report for identity fraud and forgery. Brought in the notary from Boulder. Turns out, the notary never saw me in person, just Brad and Marla. The notary claimed she was told I couldn't leave the house due to illness and that Brad had power of attorney. He didn't. That was perjury on both their parts. Teresa contacted the district attorney's office. And then another twist came out of nowhere. I got a call from a woman named Hannah. She said she was Marla's old neighbor in Loveland. She had seen me at the house once and recognized me from the local hospital. "I don't know if this helps," Hannah said, "but your husband was coming to your mother-in-law's place almost every night for months. Sometimes he stayed over. They'd shut the blinds and argue. But one night, I heard them talking outside. He said something like, 'Once we have it, she can't touch a dime.' I asked her to write a statement. She did. A week later, we subpoenaed Brad's phone records. Dozens of late-night calls to Marla. Texts with file attachments. One text said, 'Make sure the notary doesn't ask questions this time.' It was unraveling fast. But they weren't done. Marla showed up at my work. She walked into the lobby of the hospital during visiting hours. Smiling like she owned the place. She handed a sealed envelope to the receptionist and said it was urgent for me. Inside was a single photo. It was a picture of me from a few years ago, crying in the hospital parking lot after a tough shift. I didn't even know anyone had taken it. On the back, she had written in neat, perfect handwriting, "Be careful who you cross. Not everyone forgives." That shook me. I filed a restraining order the next day. But Marla was smart. The photo didn't count as a direct threat. Just strange behavior. That didn't matter. Because while they were playing intimidation games, we were building a case. The real twist came when Teresa hired a forensic document analyst. She examined both the forged will and my known signatures from the past 10 years. The result? This was traced. It's an overlay. You can see the exact matching pressure points. we now had proof of forgery. And with Brad's phone records, email history, and the neighbor's statement, we could show conspiracy. Teresa smiled for the first time since this started. They're going down. But I want to time it right. I asked what she meant. We wait until the divorce hearing. They'll expect to walk in and paint you as unstable. We'll let them think they're winning. Then we flip everything in front of the judge. So I waited. I kept quiet. Brad messaged again, saying, if you agree to let Mom keep the house when you move, we'll consider dropping the divorce. It's just paper. Don't make this harder. I ignored him. What they didn't know was that Teresa was already talking to the DA. What they didn't expect was what we planned for the courtroom. The court date for the divorce hearing was set for a Monday morning in early April. It felt like a trap they set months ago, and now they were ready to spring it. Brad had no idea we were prepared. He had no idea we had enough to bury them both. 3 days before the hearing, Teresa called me. Something new just came up. You're going to want to sit down. She told me that a complaint had been filed anonymously with the State Department of Health and Environment about me. Specifically, about possible drug theft and erratic behavior at the hospital. It was enough to trigger an internal review. They're trying to get you fired, Teresa said flatly. It's sloppy, but it might work if they time it right. I couldn't breathe for a second. If I lost my license, I'd lose everything, my job, my credibility in court, and even my ability to support myself through this process. I contacted HR the next morning. Someone had submitted a folder of evidence with screenshots of fake text messages, patient records, that weren't mine, and even a photo of pills on a bathroom sink. I looked at the metadata. One of the files had Marla's printer brand in the details. It was a cheap mistake. But HR had to treat it seriously. They placed me on temporary leave pending investigation. When I told Teresa, she barely flinched. They're getting desperate. They're burning their own house down just to make sure you lose. But I wasn't going to lose. Not after what I found next. I went back into the shared cloud account. I remembered Brad used to back up his voicemail recordings there from his old phone, just in case he lost anything. I didn't think there'd be anything new, but I checked anyway. I hit play on one file out of habit. And what I heard made my skin go cold. It was a recording of a voicemail from Marla to Brad. I shredded the old copies like you said. But if anything happens to her before this court date, remember, grief works in our favor. They'll assume she was unstable. She was already taking something for sleep, right? You just need to act shocked. You're good at that. It was dated 2 weeks before the forged will was filed. I sent it to Teresa immediately. That's our bullet, she said. This goes beyond fraud. We're dealing with attempted criminal manipulation of the court and maybe worse. That weekend, Teresa filed a motion with the court to delay the hearing by 48 hours and filed a sealed packet of evidence directly with the judge. We had everything lined up. The forged will with forensic confirmation, the manipulated notary who admitted she never saw me, phone records, the neighbor's affidavit, Brad's Amazon history, the voicemail, a signed statement from HR confirming the complaint against me was being reviewed as a possible act of retaliation. But then it got darker. The night before the new hearing date, I got another email. No name. Just a subject line, you were never supposed to be here. Attached was a PDF. It was a scanned page from Marla's diary. I still don't know how it got to me. Maybe a guilty third party. Maybe someone inside her circle who finally grew a conscience. It read, Rachel wasn't the one. She never respected what we built. Brad sees it now. She'll be gone soon. One way or another. The will makes that clean. If I have to visit her again, I won't be so kind. It felt like a confession. Written in her own words. Teresa reviewed it. Handwriting matches. We'll use it. With the voicemail, this puts intent to harm squarely in the open. We made copies and added it to the sealed evidence. The day of the hearing, I walked in with Teresa by my side. Brad was there in a navy suit. He smiled like we were still a couple. Like we'd had a misunderstanding. Marla sat behind him. Wearing pearls. Calm. Composed. Like she was watching her son receive an award. When the judge asked for initial statements, Brad's lawyer said I was emotionally unstable and had abandoned the home for vague reasons tied to paranoia. He asked the judge to grant full ownership of the home and assets to Brad to maintain financial and legal consistency during the separation. Then Teresa stood up. Your Honor, we respectfully ask the court to pause these proceedings so we may enter new evidence that directly impacts the integrity of this petition and reveals a larger scheme of fraud, forgery, and criminal intent. Brad looked up fast. Marla shifted in her seat. The judge allowed it. And that was when the dam broke. Teresa laid it out in order: the forged will, the notary deception, the financial accounts, the real-time phone records and messages, the voicemail, the diary scan, and finally, the retaliation attempt that nearly got me fired. Each point built off the next. The judge didn't say much. Just kept writing. When it was over, Brad didn't look at me. He looked at his own lawyer and whispered something fast. His lawyer's face turned pale. Marla stood up. She tried to interrupt. He's being manipulated. This woman's always been unstable. The judge slammed the gavel. Ma'am, you are not a party in this action. Sit down or be removed. She sat. The judge looked right at Brad. Mr. Haynes, you are facing serious allegations. This court will be referring this case to the district attorney's office for review. In the meantime, all divorce proceedings are frozen until the matter of the forged will and related criminal actions are investigated. You are not to access or move any joint accounts. You are not to contact the petitioner directly. He turned to me. Ms. Haynes, we will protect your interests. You've done the right thing by bringing this to light. That moment felt like coming up for air after months underwater. But I knew it wasn't over. Because people like Marla don't stop when they're caught. They get meaner. And the next time she came after me, she didn't come alone. 3 days after the court hearing, I was followed home from the grocery store. It was late. I noticed the car after I pulled out of the Safeway parking lot, an older gray sedan, 2 cars back. It didn't feel like a coincidence. I turned left instead of right, took the long way through a quiet neighborhood. The car stayed with me. I called Teresa and left her a voicemail. I think someone's following me. I don't know if it's them, but I don't feel safe. I ended up pulling into a police station parking lot. The car drove past. Slowly. I couldn't see the driver. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, Teresa called. The DA was opening a full investigation into Brad and Marla. The forged will, the fake notary story, the harassment, it all added up. Teresa said charges would be filed within the week. I felt relief. But also fear. Brad and Marla had no more secrets. No more control. And nothing left to lose. It was only a matter of time before they snapped. 2 days later, my neighbor banged on my apartment door around 6:30 a.m. Rachel, you need to come outside. Right now. I ran down in my pajamas. Someone had smashed the windows of my car. Slashed all 4 tires. Spray painted the word liar across the windshield in bright red. There was a dead squirrel on the hood. I stared at it for a long time. Not crying. Not angry. Just hollow. The police filed a report, but of course, no one saw anything. But that was the final mistake Marla ever made. Because that same morning, she walked into a Chase Bank in Loveland and tried to withdraw $12,000 from the joint account she shared with Brad, the one they had been using to funnel my money. What she didn't know was that Teresa had already filed a temporary freeze order. She lost it. Security footage showed her screaming at the teller, pounding her fist on the counter. When police arrived, she fought them. Tried to grab her purse, which, when searched, contained 3 blank checks in my name and 2 forged medical records. They arrested her on the spot for resisting arrest and attempted fraud. That same afternoon, Brad was brought in for questioning. And under pressure, he folded. He admitted to everything. Said it was all his mom's idea, that she manipulated him, that he just went along with it to keep the peace. But the DA didn't care. He was part of it. And he wasn't getting away. Charges were filed against both of them: conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, identity theft, filing false legal documents, attempted estate theft, criminal harassment, filing a false report to a government agency, the fake complaint about me at the hospital. Their mugshots were on the local news the next day. Marla Wilcox, 66, former small business owner. Brad Haynes, 45, local contractor and husband of the victim. People started calling me. Nurses at work. My old neighbors. Even 2 of Marla's church friends. One woman said, "I'm so sorry. We never believed she could do something like this." Another just said, "That woman always gave me a bad feeling." When the trial started, it was fast. They were both offered a deal. Plead guilty to avoid a full trial. Brad took it. He got 2 years of probation, lost all claims to the house, and had to pay restitution. But he also lost something bigger: his job, his reputation, and the respect of everyone who ever thought he was a decent man. Marla refused. She stood in front of the judge and said, "I did what I did because I love my son. That woman stole him from me." She got 3 years in prison. During sentencing, the judge said, "You didn't just commit fraud. You plotted to erase someone's life. And you did it with a smile. That's not love. That's control. And it ends now." The courtroom was silent. I stood up, said nothing, and walked out. I moved back into the house a month later. Alone. Daisy was waiting at the door like she never left. I changed the locks. Tore up the yard. Got new furniture. Burned the old bed. Literally. I left the ashes in a small fire pit in the backyard with a note, "I rise. You rot." It wasn't poetic. It was the truth. Brad sent me one last email after sentencing. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you know I was weak. Not evil." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. His weakness ruined everything we had. His silence let his mother crawl into our lives and rip it apart. As for Marla, she was moved to a minimum security prison downstate. She filed 2 appeals. Both were denied. I heard from someone she cried in court when she realized no one from her church came to support her. I guess even snakes can feel alone when the pit runs dry. Now? I'm back at work. My license was cleared after the hospital finished their investigation. They found the complaint malicious and unfounded. Teresa told me most people don't make it out of things like this without losing more. I lost a marriage. I lost time. But I didn't lose myself. And I made damn sure they paid. Every signature. Every lie. Every fake smile. They thought they could steal my future. Instead, they gave me the fire to burn them both to the ground. And I don't regret a second of it.